Mutation. It is the key to our evolution, and it has enabled us to evolve from a single-cell organism to the dominant species on the planet. This process is normally slow and takes thousands and thousands of years, but every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward. In a time where the future of mutants would be unclear, we have a film that may have taken 15 years to get off the ground, but would come out and help change the superhero industry in a big way, creating a franchise that would eventually become the longest movie franchise of a singular superhero team, the X-Men. Releasing July 14th of 2000 on a budget of $75 million, X-Men made a box office of $296.3 million. As far back as 1984, the X-Men film has tried to get its feet off the ground. The film rights went through 3 different production studios: Orion Pictures, Carlico Pictures, then eventually at 20th Century Fox. Marvel at one point tried to sell to Columbia with no avail. Man, if you really stop and think about it, the franchise would be so different today if it went to any of those other companies. Since the rights went through multiple production studios, the film also went through multiple producers and screenplays as well as rewrites before we got Bryan Singer and David Hayter's version we know today. While under the production company of Orion Pictures, Marvel Comics writer and chief editors Gary Conway and Roy Thomas had their own screenplay in 1984, but unfortunately, since Orion Pictures was having financial issues, that never saw the light of day. This led them into discussions with Carlico Pictures. In this adaptation, we would have had James Cameron as producer and Kathryn Bigelow directing as well as writing her own screenplay. Unfortunately, Carlico Pictures went under and Marvel did have to sell the rights. They sold the rights to 20th Century Fox, which were already making an adaptation of the X-Men in cartoon form. While at Fox, many different people attempted to assist in making X-Men happen. Some of the people who assisted in multiple screenplays and rewrites were John Logan. He would later work on Star Trek Nemesis. We had Michael Chabon, who would later work on Spider-Man 2. Ed Solomon, he did Men in Black, and most notably in the Marvel world would be Joss Whedon. When Whedon was assisting, he was one of the minds that wanted to bring us the Danger Room, which luckily we did eventually see later down the road. In late 1997, Fox would give a budget originally of $60 million. They would later increase it to $75 million, but now that we finally have a budget, casting could begin. Before getting the characters we know today, many different people were considered for these roles, and personally, they would have made the franchise very different. Their first choice for Storm was originally going to be Angela Bassett. You may know her name because she did play Dr. Waller in the Green Lantern, but most recently she was the Queen Mother of Wakanda in Black Panther. They also considered some singers for this role, as Janet Jackson and Mariah Carey were thought of casting before we finally got Halle Berry. Cyclops was originally going to be played by Jim Caviezel, but unfortunately he did back out. Eric Mabius also had a personal interest in the role. You may know his name from Cruel Intentions and a future role in Resident Evil. These are both before James Marsden actually did get the role. Since he had no idea about the character he was about to play, he took it upon himself to read some X-Men comics so that he can be better acquainted with the character. Kudos to you! Anna Paquin actually dropped out as the lead in Tart in favor to play in this X-Men movie. She wasn't the first pick though for Rogue. We had a very different kind of casting that could have happened. We had Drew Barrymore in consideration. You guys should know her as Sugar in Batman Forever, as well as in Charlie's Angels. We had Sarah Michelle Gellar, who played Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We also had Kate Holmes, who had a future role in Batman Begins, as well as Alicia Silverstone. She played Batgirl in the Batman and Robin film. And we even had Natalie Portman. You guys should know her name since she played Padme in the Star Wars prequels. Before Famke Janssen took on the role as Jean Grey, Salma Blair, who had a future role as Liz in Hellboy, Lucy Lawless, as you'll all know as Xena Warrior Princess, who also had an appearance in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Peta Wilson, who had a future role, small one at least, in Superman Returns, were also considered for this role. David Hemblin, who voiced Magneto in the X-Men TV show, Christopher Lee, who has future roles in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, as well as Terrence Stamp, who played General Zod in Superman, the one that was released in 1978, as well as Smallville. He voiced Jor-El and has future roles as well in Star Wars, were all considered for Magneto before Singer cast Ian McKellen. In an interview, Singer explained that McKellen really responded to the gay allegory of the film, stating that Ian is an activist and he really responded to the potential of that allegory. Patrick Stewart would be one of the only actors that would have been a first and final actor consideration for the role of Professor Xavier. For the most important role of Wolverine, many big names were considered for the role, such as Keanu Reeves, who just got done with his fame and success of Matrix, who would also have future role in Constantine, and most notably now as John Wick. We also had Mel Gibson off the heels of Lethal Weapon, Aaron Eckhart, who had a future role as Two-Face in Batman The Dark Knight, Jean-Claude Van Damme, also Viggo Mortensen with future roles in Lord of the Rings, and most notably in the Marvel world would be Edward Norton in The Incredible Hulk. When Hugh Jackman was cast as Wolverine, he got the role from his friend Russell Crowe. He did have a future role as Jor-El in Man of Steel. He actually turned down the studio and gave Jackman's name as a consideration for the lead. Jackman officially got the lead 3 weeks after filming started. Not knowing at this time, Jackman would play Wolverine for an astonishing 18 years, becoming an actor with one of the longest single character portrayals. Now that the film had a director, script, budget, and cast, they were ready to film. As we've seen in the past, X-Men has not had the easiest trip, even when it came down to when they would be able to start filming. Originally, the film was supposed to release Christmas of 2000, allowing shooting to start in mid of 1999. But Fox moved the release date to June of 2000 to fill a void that was caused by Steven Spielberg when he decided to work on AI, artificial intelligence, instead of Minority Report, which was supposed to release that June of 2000. This meant that Singer had to start filming 6 months ahead of schedule, which took place from September 22nd of 1999 to March 3rd of 2000. Even this was a delayed start, which caused the film to actually be released July 14th of 2000 instead. Most of filming took place in either Toronto or Hamilton, Ontario, which is still a very popular place to film today. Bringing these characters to life took a lot of time, props, and custom designs to best bring it from a comic to the silver screen. Although we didn't get the yellow, blue, and black suits we grew to know in the comics, Stan Lee and Chris Claremont supported the decision to change them, with Claremont joking, "You can do that on a drawing, but you can't put that on a person. It's disturbing." Which I find funny since we see cosplayers today do it all the time, and man, they look good. Singer noted that a durable black leather made more sense as protective clothing, and producer Lauren Schuler-Donner added that this look would help them blend into the night. It's always interesting to see big companies get involved with films, and Oakley jumped in and provided the red lenses glasses for Colossus, which was a customized version of the company's own X-Metal Juliet. When it came to Wolverine's claws, for safety reasons, special makeup designer Gordon Smith had to turn down some of the production ideas multiple times because they wanted to have a prosthetic sleeve as well as metal blades. Yikes! In the end, he went with an injection molded plaster blade instead, which could be taken on and off easily, and there were hundreds of these made, not only for Jackman, but his stunt double. Wolverine and Colossus weren't the only ones who needed some prosthetics. Rebecca Romaine Stamos wore 110 individual silicone prosthetics on her body to portray Mystique. They were initially colored with food coloring and needed additional makeup or paint. Rebecca originally agreed to and even test designed having her skin colored with a cosmetic grade food coloring, But at last minute, Bryan Singer insisted on painting her body to look more opaque, as in the comic books, which added 6 hours to her makeup time, and this was a very difficult ordeal for her. Additional complications were that the facilities had no exhaust for the paint fumes, and they were filming during Canada's colder winter time. Rebecca reflected, "I almost had no contact with the rest of the cast. It was like I was making a different movie for someone else. It was hell." While filming was going on, they were also trying to find a special effects company. Not until December of 1999 were 7 different companies hired. To name a couple of the effects companies that were hired, one of them was Digital Domain, which you'll know because they have done multiple different superhero movies today, as well as Avengers and Aquaman. We have Cinesite, who did Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Hammerhead Production, they worked on all of the Fast and the Furious movies. Matt World Digital did Captain America, the First Avenger, and there's a few more that were hired as well. Visual effects supervisor Michael Fink admitted to have been dissatisfied with his work on X-Men in 2003, despite nearly being nominated for an Academy Award. Most of the visual effects were done after the movie was nearly done filming, but no film is complete without music. Originally, Singer wanted John Williams, who wouldn't, and John Ottoman, but both unfortunately needed to back down due to scheduling conflicts. Michael Kamen was eventually hired, and given the film was only complete shortly prior to the premiere, Kamen wrote the score to the finished scenes, which were sent to him just as they were getting done. Singer asked him to not use any songs in the soundtrack as he didn't want to date the movie. Due to Kamen's unfamiliarity with comics, he tried to represent Bryan Singer's filmatic tone that he was making for a comic book but quite serious movie. Character-specific themes were written to identify these characters as they go through the film because they were not always clear. Kamen's first draft of the score had been described as having an ambience of themes and a rich orchestration. During early recording sessions, producer Lauren Schuler Donner expressed her dissatisfaction with Kamen's music and forced him to rewrite the entire score by using fewer themes and a more electric element. Due to time restrictions, the producer scrapped their original plan to record the score in London and did it in Los Angeles instead. While filming was wrapping up, it was time to start to get the audience into knowing what mutants were and how to prepare. Fox Broadcasting Company aired a special entitled Mutant Watch to promote the movie that partly includes the universe scene of the Senate hearing featuring Senator Kelly. This featurette was included as a bonus feature on some of the video release. On June 1st, 2000, Marvel published a comic book prequel to the X-Men entitled X-Men Beginnings, revealing the backstories of Magneto, Rogue, and Wolverine. There was also a comic book adaptation of the film. A console video game, X-Men Mutant Academy, was released on July 6th of 2000 to take advantage of the film's release, featuring costumes and other materials from the film. Well, this marketing tactic was smart and showed when the movie finally released. X-Men had its premiere on Ellis Island on July 12th of 2000. Smart, since this was the location of their final battle scene. This was only 2 days before the wide opening in 3,025 theaters in North America. It would also debut in Australia that weekend and take advantage of the school holiday, while most other territories would get the film in August. Well, I would hope also Australia got it early since their main actor, Hugh Jackman, is from there. Marvel Studios was depending on X-Men's success to ignite other franchise properties, such as Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Hulk, and Daredevil. X-Men X-Men grossed $157.3 million in the United States and Canada, and $139 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $296.3 million, against a budget of only $75 million, becoming the 8th highest grossing film of 2000 domestically and 9th worldwide. In America, X-Men opened up on Friday, July 14th of 2000 and made $20.8 million on its opening day. The film earned $54.5 million in its opening weekend, averaging $18,007 per theater, and having the highest grossing opening weekend of a superhero film, surpassing Batman Forever's $52.7 million, a non-sequel, and a July release surpassing Men in Black $51.1 million. At the time of its release, X-Men had the 6th biggest opening of all time and marked the first time in history that 3 pictures had a consecutive opening weekend of above $40 million in North America, after The Perfect Storm $41.3 million and Scary Movies $42.3 million. With the X-Men now being a household name alongside another Marvel franchise, Blade, X-Men helped the Marvel name become a known commodity, as well as helped the superhero film genre. Now, with Spider-Man, directed by Sam Raimi, around the corner, mutants were about to skyrocket in popularity, creating a long, ongoing franchise. Join me next time as we continue our X-Men history with X2.